Hey guys, what's going on? This is Tom, Big Shoulders CrossFit. We're doing a little bit of a discussion at the whiteboard for you. The other day I had a member come in, talk to me about the Open. We just finished 16.1, and he was just kind of telling me that a bunch of his friends and stuff at other gyms were feeling really beat up. They didn't feel very recovered. And he, on the other hand, felt pretty darn good after 16.1. He was able to come in the next day, do a pretty tough workout, and has been training pretty consistently the rest of the week. So he's just kind of figuring or asking, you know, what are we doing differently that some other gyms may or may not be doing? I explained to him that I simply, when it came to the programming, we employed a principle called super compensation. This was introduced to me by Glenn Penley back in 2012, 2013. Worked really well for my training then, and then my current coach, Rudy Nielsen, employs this a lot in his training, and I still receive the same benefits from it, so I used it for our programming here at Big Shoulders CrossFit with our members. For those of you who are exercise science majors or exercise physiology majors, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but for those of you who don't, we're going to go over it a little bit, kind of see if this is something that you can apply in your training, help your members, help yourself, and perform better at certain events that you are trying to peak for. Super compensation, what is it? First off, it's a 4-step process. What you do, you find an event that you want to be performing at your best for. Some people, it's the CrossFit Games. For our gym here, it was the Open. That was the event I kind of circled out on the calendar. Leading up to, I chose 4 weeks out from the Open, we were increasing the intensity. Step 1 is an application of stress. Simply what that means is you beat the people up. You put a lot of higher intensity workouts in there, longer duration workouts, more volume in those workouts, and you're simply beating the person down. They're not going to be feeling good. Their performance is going to be lower. They're going to literally say to you, "This is stupid. Why am I doing this? I'm not getting better." Those words will come out of their mouth. I promise. They come out of mine numerous times, and I know what's going on. So it's just that mental state. You're just going to be beat down physically, mentally, and every other way possible. Okay. The second step after that 4-week point comes up. So you work up. 4 weeks out is probably about as worse as it gets. Weeks 3, 2, 1, leading up to that competition, you have what is active recovery. Each week, you're lightening the loads and the intensity. So week 3 3 weeks out isn't going to be as bad as 4 weeks out. 2 weeks out isn't going to be as bad as 3 weeks out. 1 week out isn't going to be as bad as the 2 weeks out. But you're just gradually kind of peeling back the intensity and the volume, but they're still training hard, just not as hard as they were before. So don't take that and think, okay, we just completely pull back and don't do a whole heck of a lot. That's not the case. You are still training, you're still following the program, just the overall intensity and volume is gradually getting reduced the closer you get to that point. Then, if things all go to plan, step 3 is the rebound effect. What this simply means is after you've recovered a little bit, we have a little bit of lighter intensity. When you're ready to go for that big competition that you've been getting ready for, your performance levels are actually going to rebound and be higher than they were at the original baseline. Put it in layman's terms, you're going to feel like the juggernaut, feel like you're ready to run through any sort of wall that is put in front of you. It's not one of those things that you may not notice it right away, but if it's a longer duration competition, like a 3-day, 4-day thing, or a couple of weeks, like the Open, over time you're going to start to feel like, oh wow, I actually don't feel too bad doing this. That's what the rebound effect is. It's going to be different per person, but essentially speaking, if you follow the first 2 steps, that 3rd step is going to be the benefit, the result of that. Step 4 is simply detraining. This happens with any training phase. After you have peaked, after you have primed your central nervous system for a big thing, your body's then going to kind of have to drop levels. Nobody can maintain anything forever. Your body's going to have to drop. So the 4th step in super compensation is simply a detraining or a loss of that rebound effect that you worked so hard to build up for. Couple of things to keep in mind when doing this. Little special snowflakes. All I'm simply talking about, everybody's different. Everybody's going to respond to it differently. As a coach and as a trainer and if you're working with athletes, you're going to need to run this 2 or 3 times to see how individual athletes are going to respond. There's not a one-size-fits-all. So some people may be able to take a lot of abuse during that application of stress period. Some people may not. You may have to cut back on squats. The strength work is just not doing it for them. You may have to cut back on the Olympic lifts. You may have to cut back on long duration metcons. You may have to cut back on interval work. It's a big jigsaw puzzle that you're going to have to try to figure out for those athletes. Now I understand in a group fitness type setting, it's going to be harder to do so, but after about 2 or 3 times of running it, you should have a good idea of what your membership is going to need in order to receive that best rebound effect possible. The next thing is the time of the recovery phase. Depending on application of stress and how hard you went, you may need to take a little bit longer. You may need to plan for a little bit longer recovery period. If you didn't go as crazy as you normally do, you can shorten that recovery phase. It just depends, again, on the athlete and how they respond to this super compensation. Maintenance. When we get back down to that rebound effect, how long can they hold that high level of performance? Some athletes, it's gone in 2 days. Other athletes, they can hold it for like a week and a half. It just depends, again, on that athlete, where they are in their training, and how adapted to the program they are. And then obviously the loss of effects. How quickly are they going to lose it? Kind of goes back to the use it or lose it type thing. When you get an athlete ready to go, if they're not competing in whatever you're trying to peak them for, set up a test week. Find a way for them to test their skills so they can see the benefit of the super compensation. There's no reason to build them all the way up to this and then not experience the benefits of it. So if they're not participating in your competition, set up a test week, or better yet, for our members here, everybody still does the open workouts even if they haven't signed up online through HQ. So find something for them to do so they can test the benefits of that super compensation. The last big thing is timing. Make sure you are spacing out when you do these super compensations. I repeat, do not do them back to back. You can't do that. You're going to hurt somebody. People aren't going to be able to recover. Space them out. Just like when you peak somebody in a normal periodization method, you should only maybe do it 2, 3, 4 times at most throughout a year. So you can't do this multiple times back to back to back. The human body cannot handle that unless you have special help. Proper load. Again, just going back to the special snowflake thing. Pay attention to your athletes. If you have some athletes that just don't move very well, or they could spend a little bit more time working on their form, mobility, recovery, etc., make sure you're not overloading them and giving them things that they really shouldn't be doing or can't handle. And then lastly, is the athlete healthy? If your athlete going into this is only 50 to 75%, they're not going to get the full benefit of it. And obviously not everybody is 100% all the time, but you want to get them as close to that 100% as possible. So make sure they're healthy before you do this. Check out, what they're doing outside of the gym. That's going to be another big indicator on how they're going to respond to the super compensation. All right, so a review. 4-step process: application of stress, active recovery, your rebound, and your detraining. Make sure you're paying attention to the individuals and see how they're responding to it. After about 2 or 3 times, you should have a good idea. Little side note on this, take notes. We use Wattify here in our gym. I have a little notebook that I carry on me all the time. Jot some things down that you notice as you go, because you're not going to be able to remember everything that happens every day. And then lastly, timing. Make sure that you are implementing it at the right times, you're not doing them too close together, and that you're checking for these loads and making sure that you're giving the proper amount of time for the athletes to receive the full benefit. Hope that helps you guys out. If you have any other questions or anything you want to see, go to BigShouldersCrossFit.com, check out our blog, and go to our YouTube page. Thanks, guys.